was joy and gladness in the family of Mr. Obioma when a set of twins was born in the family after so many years of childlessness. Mr. Obioma was a civil servant. He was in his workplace when his sister-in-law called him on phone and told him about the birth of his sons. Because mother and children were healthy and bouncing, they were discharged and they returned home. When Mrs. Obioma returned to her house with her twins, she was very happy. So many people, her neighbors, friends, relatives, and well-wishers all came to share their joy with them. Mr. Obioma saw it and he bought enough drink to entertain his guests and well-wishers. Mrs. Obioma mother later came from their village to stay and look after her daughter and the twins. Mama Felicia, as she called, was a good woman who knew so many things about childbirth and care of children. She was of a big help to the inexperienced couple, Mr. Obioma and his wife. After 8 days, Mr. Obioma invited the eldest man from their village, living in the city, with them to come and bless the twins as their customs demanded. The man came in company of other members of their village in the city. Some of their neighbors were around to fulfill the tradition of the people. It was a nice and happy gathering. A month later, the twins were taken to church for child dedication, where their pastor prayed for their welfare and growth. He advised the parents of the twins to take good care of them. He warned them against pampering the boys and not spare the rod to spoil the children. Later, some members of the church followed Mr. and Mrs. Obioma to their house, where they prayed, sang, and gave thanks to God. They were later served good delicious meal and wine to accompany the food. Everybody was happy indeed. Some of them, before they left for their houses, gave the couple various items of gifts for their twins. The names of the twins were Ikechukwu and Okechukwu. They were good-looking children. Their mother spared no cost to take good care of them. She stopped working so as to give her sons the best of attention. Right from time, Mrs. Obioma made it clear to her husband and her relatives that she did not like the idea of engaging a house help. She said that she wanted to take care of her home by herself. Her husband supported her by making sure that his wife and their twins got the best he could offer and were always happy. Mrs. Obioma always wanted the best for her children and she did not like to see them cry. She felt so bad each time any of the twins cried. She wanted them to be happy always. When Okechukwu and Ikechukwu were of age to go to school, their parents was reluctant to do so. Their father said that they needed their mother a bit more before they could be separated from her, even for some hours. The twins did not start school in September. Rather, they began to attend school in January. Funny enough, Mrs. Obioma cried as she handed over the twins to their teachers. It was always a difficult moment for her to part ways with the twins in the morning. When she took them to school, she was always the first parents that arrived to pick her sons. Even when she was told to give the children some breathing space, the woman did not listen. She wanted her children very close to her. With time, Ikechukwu and Okechukwu grew up into identical twins. They were so similar and identical that you can hardly identify them. The twins liked each other and were always happy. No matter what was done to separate them, they could be together in a matter of seconds. When their teacher in primary school tried to separate them forcefully, their parents refused. Ikechukwu was a very brilliant and obedient boy. He was always ready to do what he was asked to do. But Okechukwu was a very stubborn fellow. He simply disliked to be told what to do. That was how their neighbors and teachers came to know who was who between the twins. If one wanted to know who is Ikechukwu, they would send him on an errand. Ikechukwu would do what he was asked to do without delay. But if it was Okechukwu, he would first protest against the decision. Then he would ask, why me? Why not Ikechukwu? Ikechukwu loved Okechukwu, but as time went by, it was discovered that Okechukwu was a very selfish person. He was also trickish and cunning. The teachers of the twins noticed that Okechukwu was not a good fellow and told his parents about it, but they did nothing to correct the child. So he grew up from worst to worst. He was always in trouble. Ikechukwu tried much he could to stop Okechukwu from getting into trouble. But Okechukwu was always in one form of trouble or the other. He was always fighting, and after fighting he would run and stand beside his brother. Once he did that, it would be very difficult to identify the innocent twins from the other one. As time goes on, Ikechukwu suffered for an offense he did not commit. One day, as usual, Okechukwu wounded a fellow pupil seriously. He had broken the young boy's head when he saw blood gushing out from the poor boy's head all over his body. He ran to where Ikechukwu was and sat beside him. When a teacher came to pick him up, he stylishly pointed at his twin brother. He nearly deceived the teacher, if not that the other pupils in the class told the teacher that it was Okechukwu and not Ikechukwu that committed the offense. Ikechukwu felt so bad over what his twin brother did to him, so he enjoys me suffering for offenses he commits. Okechukwu was made to suffer for what he did, in addition to making his parents pay for the medical bills given to the wounded boy. Mr. Obioma was not happy at all the way Okechukwu was turning out in life. Mr. Obioma made his feelings and observation known to his wife, but his wife begged him to take it easy with Okechukwu. He will grow to learn, she said. Okechukwu became increasingly difficult both at home and in school. He formed the habit of not doing his home drill and house chores. It was Ikechukwu that did both his own and Okechukwu's own. Ikechukwu was not happy about Okechukwu's behavior. He complained to his parents, but they refused to do anything about it. One fateful day, Mrs. Obioma shouted at Okechukwu for doing something wrong, and he told his mother to go and sit down. Mrs. Obioma was lost and speechless. She didn't know what to do. She picked up a cane immediately and flogged Okechukwu. Okechukwu seized the cane from his mother and hit her mother back. Mrs. Obioma couldn't believe it. Ikechukwu, his twin brother, was surprised on what he did. Ikechukwu threatened to report the matter to his father, but the mother begged him and said, I have forgiven him. Ikechukwu was surprised and said to her mother, do you want me to believe that you don't want Okechukwu to be punished for the bad? His mother answered, I have forgiven him. Okechukwu repeated the attitude again and again. At a point, it became part of him to fight back at his mother. Mr. Obioma did not know what was going on all this while. One fateful day, Ikechukwu told his father everything that is happening in his home. Mr. Obioma called Okechukwu to confirm what Ikechukwu said about him. He was very angry and threatened to do with his twin brother. Since the twins are born until they were in SS3, their father had never flogged any of them before. So that fateful day, Mr. Obioma tried to flog Okechukwu, but he ran out from their house. For 1 week, nobody saw him. His mother cried and blamed his twin brother and his husband for Okechukwu disappearance. 2 weeks later, Okechukwu returned home, and his mother was all over him, asking him, where have you been? Okechukwu didn't respond or answer his mother. Her mother hurriedly prepared food for him while he was eating. His twin brother said to him, Okechukwu, I want you to know that you are wrong. I am not condemning you, but I just want you to know that you need to change for good. One fateful day, Okechukwu left their house and went to one of his friend's house to stay. The boy in person is a very bad boy. His name is Lotanna. He was 5 years older than Okechukwu. but they were in the same school. But he lived alone in the town. Lotanna was a criminal who specialized in stealing people's phone and chargers. When he saw Okechukwu in his house, he was very happy to have him around. The next day, Lotanna and Okechukwu went out in search of fresh money. Before 11 p.m. that day, they had stolen a lot of handsets, phone and chargers. The same night, Lotanna took the items at a place where it was sold. They repeated the same act, but on the sixth day, while they were trying to snatch an old woman's handset, Okechukwu stabbed the old woman in the stomach, unknown to them that the old woman knew Lotanna. The following day, the old woman told the policemen what happened to her and how it happened. The policemen went after them. They arrested Lotanna and Okechukwu managed to escape. The next day, policemen came to Mr. Obioma's house to arrest Okechukwu, but he deceived them that his twin brother was Okechukwu and he is Ikechukwu. So after everything, Ikechukwu was arrested instead of Okechukwu for the offense he didn't committed. Okechukwu was nowhere to be found. Mr. Obioma was not happy about what was going on. His wife, Mrs. Obioma, became sick and couldn't work for 2 years. Then one day, some policemen went to Mr. Obioma's house with Okechukwu, who was handcuffed. Mr. Obioma came out and saw Okechukwu. Although he was rough-looking and grown to a big boy, his father shouted, "Where have you been all this while?" The policeman told Mr. Obioma that his son was arrested with other criminals on the highway. On the course of interrogation, he was the person that snapped the old woman to death and not Ikechukwu. In less than 1 week after Ikechukwu confessed his crime, his twin brother was released to his parents. His father was happy and invited his family and friends to celebrate him. But his wife was heartbroken. She wasn't allowed to talk to Okechukwu and Ikechukwu. When she came out to see him, the boy threw out his face. When the policeman wants to take Okechukwu away, he said to his mother, "You are not a good mother. Ikechukwu warned me, but I didn't listen. I even overheard him saying severally that you hate me." He was right. "I am going away," he said. "I pray that our paths never cross each other again. I will make sure in my next word you pay for the unplayed role." Okechukwu called his father and said to him, "Greet Ikechukwu for him. Tell him I love him." Okechukwu was taken away to the prison to face his punishment.